Less than 20% of properties are selling every month in the city of Toronto, but context is important. Is this low? Is this high? Well, what I can tell you is pre-2020, this number was closer to 40 to 50%. When the market got a little bit silly there for about 18 months when money was basically free, that number got close to 75% every month. When we talk about percentage of properties selling, it's every 30 days. So I'm not saying that only 25% of properties that list for sale in Toronto sell. That's definitely not what this is, but just showing you the absorption of the current marketplace. But I want to break this down even further, because whether you're a buyer or a seller in the Toronto real estate market, or really just the Canadian real estate market at any point in 2025, what I'm going to talk about in this video will give you a strategic advantage. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Tom Storey. I run one of the top real estate teams here in the city of Toronto. If you learned anything new in this video, make sure to give it a big fat like and get subscribed to the channel as we're on the road to 20,000. Over the years, we've got to meet so many people from this YouTube channel, helping them buy and sell in this market. So if you have any questions specifically for us or you'd like to work with our team, you can book a call in the first link in the description. In this video, we're going to focus on 6 different data points. Now, every time I get an opportunity to meet with a seller about selling their property, whether it's a condo, a townhouse, a freehold townhouse, a semi-detached or a detached, I think you get the point. I'm always going to talk about these 6 things and why they're so important in terms of how you're going to price a property, when you potentially need to make an adjustment on your pricing to make sure you sell. And buyers, if buyers fully understood these numbers before they started their search, they could save a lot of money. If you've been watching my videos for a while, the term months of inventory is not new to you, but months of inventory is still the best understanding of what a market is doing. When you hear people on the news saying it's a buyer's market, it's a seller's market, it's a balanced market, that calculation comes from months of inventory. So months of inventory is one of the 6 data points we're going to talk about today, but I want to show you how to calculate it and what it actually means for buyers and sellers. Months of inventory is a fancy way of saying the absorption rate. How many properties are for sale every month and how many actually sell every single month. So if you are a seller right now, or you're a buyer looking to buy in a specific area of the city for a specific property type, here's how you would do that calculation. And by the way, these numbers are very much publicly available for anyone looking to buy in Toronto. It's called the TRREB Market Watch. You can Google it. You can find all these numbers yourself. Let's use a simple example for this video. The first thing you'd want to know is active listings. So at the end of a month, when you're reviewing the data that's publicly available, you would want to look in the area that your property is located or you want to buy. The first number you'd want to know is how many active listings were there on the market at the end of the month. So in this scenario, let's say there was 100 properties for sale. There was 100 homes or 100 condos for sale in the area you were interested in, or you had a property you were looking to sell. Then you'd want to look over on the chart and go, okay, but how many actually sold? So let's say 25 properties sold. So you had 25 sales and there was 100 active listings at the end of the month. What that is basically saying is that 1 out of every 4 properties is going to sell every 30 days. And if you took 100 and you divided it by 25, it would give you the number 4. Usually between 4 and 6 months of inventory is a balanced market. And if the months of inventory hold in that zone for 4 to 6 months in a row, you really don't see any change in price. It's kind of like this equal market where there's just as many buyers as there are sellers, and it's calm and prices don't go up and they don't go down. But then if your months of inventory is under 3, and really under 2 is when you start seeing real pressure on prices going up, that's when you see homes sell over asking. When people do really low list price and hold offer dates, they can do that when there's not a lot to choose from. And on the other side, when there's 6 months of inventory or more, you can go to whatever number you're looking for. There was one point last year in downtown Toronto that the condo market had 10 months of inventory. That means that you are in a buyer's market. If you have 6 months of inventory or more for an extended period of time, that's when you can see sale prices go down. Another thing to consider is that sometimes you're looking to sell or buy a property in an area that just not a lot of homes have actually sold. And that's probably where you want to do a rolling average of the last 3 to 6 months for what's actually happened. Because if there was like 4 homes for sale and only 1 actually sold, that's not very helpful for what you're trying to figure out for what's going on in the market. So we've talked about the number 1 data point, which is active listings. How many homes were still available at the end of last month? Then we've talked about the number 2 data point, which is how many sales actually happened. How many buyers actually bought properties in that area? If you take the active listings and you divide it by the number of sales, that will give you our 3rd data point. That is the months of inventory. Now, so far in this video, you may have heard some of these terms thrown around before, or you might be well versed on them. But there's actually 3 other data points I think are equally important. The 4th data point that can be found out from the months of inventory is what percentage of homes are actually selling every single month. So if it's 1 in 4, that means that 25% of homes are finding a buyer every single month. So if you're a seller in an area with 4 months of inventory, what we know statistically is that your chances of selling are 25% every 30 days. Now, lots of properties take longer than 30 days to sell, but in the next 30 days, your chances of finding a buyer are about 25%. That's important to know because when we're looking at values of properties, we can look at a graph from the day you bought it till today, and we can draw a line and have a general understanding of what your property is worth. Then we can look at what's actually sold recently and look at comparable sales and break it down and compare it to make sure we understand where our value should be. But then just as importantly, you have to look at what's your competition right now. If there are 3 other properties for sale, do you stand out like the best available option? Now, being the best available option doesn't necessarily mean that your price has to be lower, although obviously that does help. It's the presentation of the property. It's the occupancy of the property. There's all these little things that are important to buyers, some that you can control and some that you can't. The 5th data point, which is also publicly available, is what was the average days on market. Now, I like and don't like this at the same time, and I'll explain why. So days on market tracks the properties that actually sold. So there is no days on market if a property never sells, meaning that if something in your area has been on the market for 100 days and has never sold, that's not in your average days on market. It only tracks the properties that sold. So let's say in this example, we know 25% of active listings are selling every single month. And on average, it takes them 35 days to find a buyer. What that tells me statistically, if that months of inventory holds for a period of time, is that if you've listed your property for sale, and you're getting showings and feedback but no offers, and you're approaching that 35 days on market mark, that means that the current crop of buyers are not agreeing with your price. And they've decided with their actions that you're not the 25% that's going to sell this month. And at that point, as a seller, you can decide, well, what do I have to do to be part of the 25%? Or maybe it's gone up to 30% that sell the next month. And typically, that's a pricing conversation. The 6th data point is the list price versus sale price ratio. What was something for sale for and what did it actually get? Now, all across Toronto, you have different percentages with this number depending on property type. And this is where we have to go back to the beginning of this video and say that, like, hey, if there was under 2 months of inventory, if there's a semi-detached house in Leslieville that got 12 offers on it and sold 110% of their asking price, which is really just a marketing price or event pricing, that is a little bit skewed. But it is what it is, and it's showing you that if you have a property in that area, you can probably try that strategy. We have proof that it's working. If there's enough sales that we've actually seen that have taken that strategy. But then in a more balanced out market or buyer's market, if you're seeing that the list versus sale price ratio is 97, 98%, that's showing you that of the 25% of properties that actually sold that last month, that of the ones that sold, they were getting 98% of the asking price or whatever the number actually is. That's very important information to have as a seller. What it's telling you is that the buyers that are making decisions, the properties that are selling, they're getting a little bit off the asking price. So you as a seller can say to yourself, well, when I list my property, do I want to leave a little bit of negotiation room to make the buyer feel that they got a great deal, but I actually got them exactly where I wanted them to be? You see what I mean? Like, if you don't know these numbers, you can't be strategic. I know it's more fun to talk about negative news headlines and what's going on in the pre-sale market and all the doom and gloom that's surrounding the Toronto real estate market. But if you actually want to become an educated buyer or seller, these are the 6 data points you need to understand in 2025. Thank you so much for watching this video. My name is Tom Storey. If you or someone you know is selling a condo and upsizing to a house this year, make sure to watch our Upsizer's Guide, where I go through the 5 things every single upsizer needs to know. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.